always start our meeting. We start every meeting with a production horror story, and today's production horror story ends with the lesson, there's no such thing as a trained cat. I worked on a project recently where we had to have a cat, and it's a punchline to an entire video where this police car is being driven wildly and crazily, and the last thing we see the passenger reacting. The last thing is the passenger turns to the driver and says, "Why you gotta drive like that?" And we cut to the driver for the first time, and it's a cat in a uniform. And all we need the cat to do is sit there like this and look over at the passenger. That's all. You would think a laser pointer would have covered that. It took so many takes. We shot it with 2 different angles in the hopes that we could use this portion of it from one shot and this portion of it from a closer shot, so that we ended up just basically hoping that we could fix it in the edit, and they did. But we contacted a trainer in LA. The trainer in LA told us which cat was best, and we used the cat that they recommended, and no, there's no such thing as a trained cat. So that's today's production horror story. Thank you, man. Welcome to San Diego Media Pros. We're the San Diego chapter of NCAI, Face Us on Like Book, and all that crap. When you get our emails, if you're going to invite someone else, which we encourage, forward the email that when you look at the email, our email comes from Constant Contact. Down at the bottom of that email, there's a forward tab in the email, or down at the bottom of the email. Click on that, and that will forward the email from Constant Contact, which means that we can track where it goes and who actually responds. But please forward them. We like people here. We want to encourage you to, if you're just coming to a meeting every now and then, we want to encourage you to join. There's a lot of benefits here. Not the least of which is the food. I spent some time this past week or 2 at San Diego State talking to students, and the student membership is $40, and if you came to every meeting, I'm sure you'd eat $40 worth of food, so it pays for itself right there. At least $40, and a college student can eat more than that. Additionally, I would really appreciate it if everybody would RSVP to the meeting so that we know how much food to bring. Fortunately, we brought a lot of food because 13 people RSVP'd, and you people aren't 13 people. We have some new members, and I'm going to give our new members hints. Dave Olson. Yay! And welcome. Steve Carson renewed his membership. Thank you very much, sir. Brand new. Oh, welcome. Awesome. Phil Ferrari is not here, but he renewed. And I will take this and personally stick it to his person. And Jeff Landy also renewed, and he's not here. Yay for them. Excellent.
Did we miss someone?
Eric Naso. What am I thinking? Eric Naso.
You're not going to haze me, are you?
Ben, baby. I'm a neighbor of Phil's, and a friend of I would walk it over tonight.
So last year, at about this time, we took an informal poll. We're going to do it again this year. The informal poll was to see who, by the way, I have a whole lot of stuff to cover, and I don't want to be the entire meeting standing up here. So I'm going to cover my stuff quick. By a show of hands, we're going to talk about who's using which edit system. Tom Kinman will be counting. Here we go. By a show of hands, what is your primary editing system? Final Cut Pro 7.
7. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow. Okay.
Final Cut Pro 10.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12, 13. Okay.
Adobe Premiere. Good luck.
Primary. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay.
Avid. Primary edit system, we have 2.
2. Using editing on your primary system.
Primary edit system. And After Effects. Who uses After Effects for editing? 1. 2. 2 for that. So here's a mix. Who uses a mix of programs? Who uses Final Cut Pro 7 and Premiere Pro? Who uses a mix of programs? Who uses both Final Cut 7 and Premiere Pro? Equally?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
For example, I have Premiere Pro. I never use it, so that doesn't count.
Okay.
Who uses Final Cut Pro 10 and Premiere Pro?
1, 2, 3. Okay. Good.
Who uses Avid and Premiere Pro? 3.
3.
And along with using your edit system, who uses After Effects in addition to your edit system? If you're using, who uses, and I'm going to do this by percent. Who uses with your edit system? Who uses After Effects? Who uses it 25% or less of the time? Who uses After Effects 25% or less of the time?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Who uses After Effects 50% of the time?
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay.
Who uses After Effects 75% of the time?
1. Okay. Good. Very interesting.
Yay, the
Very
poll is done.
Can I make a quick comment?
Yes, you can make a quick comment.
This is very interesting because last year it was almost 50% Final Cut Pro 7 and Premiere Pro. Premiere Pro is still strong, 16 of us use it. Final Cut 7 dropped down to 5, Avid 2. Final Cut Pro 10 has made a huge resurgence, or huge gain to 13. Final Cut 7 and 10 basically flipped sides in terms of the numbers, almost identical, exactly. And then everybody's experimenting, a lot of people are experimenting with Premiere Pro, and almost everybody uses After Effects in some fashion in the course of their editing. Good to know.
Yay! Okay, college students, stand up right now. Folks, this is a way for you to meet college students and for them to meet you. So, if you let the hazing begin.
I'm out of here.
Please make contacts here. Introduce yourself and what's your main focus of work?
Okay, I'm Peter Mickelson. I'm going to Palomar College, planning to transfer to SDSU, and my main focus is camera work.
Very good.
All right, I'm Brandon Morley. I go to Palomar and I'm going to transfer to SDSU. I do anything, probably mostly production assistant stuff.
Marcus Alexander, I go to State, and I'm an editor.
I'm Daniel Galupo. I also go to State, and I do a lot of different stuff, but I focus on either editing or directing.
And my name is Becca. I also go to SDSU. I do everything as well, but what I really love is assistant directing and editing.
Very good.
I'm Eric. I go to the Art Institute for advertising.
Very good. Anybody else? Well done. Remember those faces. I want to talk ever so briefly about Media Pro Camp. We had Media Pro Camp this last month. It went very nicely. It went very well. Got lots of good feedback. I want to thank Panavision one more time for sponsoring that event and making it happen. Panasonic. Panasonic.
Either one of us.
Sorry.
Both.
That's a big dream, baby.
I'm so sorry, Steve Nelly. You'll be editing that out. The next next meeting that we're going to have is a special event because we are going to be joining with the San Diego Premiere Pro Users Group. And Eric Addison has been so wonderful to contact a friend of his who runs a production company in Atlanta. His name is Walter Biscardi. He owns an editing company, owns a production company, and also, I mean, the reason I know him is because he writes on the internet. He writes on Creative Cow, and he's an incredibly smart man. And he is coming out from Atlanta. The folks at Flanders Monitors, Flanders Scientific, are paying his way out here. So they are sponsoring that meeting for us to have him come out all the way from Atlanta to speak with us. We'll be holding that probably at San Diego City College, but we're gonna work that out. And instead of having it on a Wednesday, we're gonna have it on a Thursday. And all the information will be in your email.
It's also on the web right now, too.
It's also on the web right now. I would like to thank Video Gear for being a sponsor to San Diego Media Pros. Video Gear has been a supporter of ours for a long, long time. And not just in helping to provide us with some business guidance and help with emailing and support in that way, but also providing equipment whenever we ask and however we ask, including equipment for Media Pro Camp. We brought cameras and monitors, and all it took was a phone call to Video Gear, and they give us whatever we ask for. They're wonderful people. I'd like to thank Eddie at Vision Pulse Studios. Eddie, come on up and talk for a couple minutes. Caught him off guard. As soon as I said that, he took a shot.
You must have been in food service industry. Have you guys ever gone to a restaurant and as soon as you take a big bite of food, they say, "Can I help you?" Thank you. That's what I did. So I still have nachos in my mouth. I'll try not to spit. Welcome to Vision Pulse, the event and meeting center here that you are sitting in our auditorium. We have event spaces like this for meetings like this, parties, seminars, workshops, movie screenings, you name it, we do it here. We have several conference rooms as well as individual office suites, so if you guys are tired of working at home in your pajamas or meeting clients at Starbucks, you can meet with them here. Someone brought up something today about we need more space. Anybody want to make a film? Yes. And you need a studio to do it in? Cool. Place to meet? All right. Well, we're looking to expand next door. So after this, we're going to take you for a little tour if you want. And we got about another 7,500 square feet of studio space that we're expanding into for movie production business for you guys. Not about me. It's about you guys and your space.
Wow, cool.
And we also have our travel club that's blending with that. So we're doing some films. I'm calling them foreign films. My next trip to Costa Rica, I'm looking to do a Tarzan parody. So if anybody's interested. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jody, quick, take a drink because I'm bringing you up. Jody is going to talk to us today about One Day in San Diego, and it's an event that she is, are you producing it?
Yes.
Producing it, yes. This is Jody Stilley, ladies and gentlemen.
My knee just kind of went out on that one. Sorry about that. Hi, I'm Jody
Our insurance
Stilley.
does not cover that, by the way.
I'm the founder and the president of the Film Consortium San Diego and the San Diego Film Awards. And right now I'm actually helping produce this cool event called One Day in San Diego. One of the reasons I did it was because we had about 10 submissions for documentaries for the Film Awards, and I'm like, wow, there's got to be more documentaries being made in this town than 10. And of those, like 5 of them were promo videos. So I felt like there was a lot more people that I didn't know, and actually through the course of producing this event, I've met, God, it must be 150 people in San Diego that are in some capacity working on documentaries. So what this is, you can pass this around. I'm not going to try that again, actually. It's a one-day filming event across the city, and it's happening in 11 U.S. cities. So it's, if you guys ever heard of One Day on Earth, there are people who did a worldwide filming event that filmed in every country in the world in the same day, and they made a documentary out of it. It's the same type of concept, except it's happening across 11 US cities, and it's sponsored by the Ford Foundation, and then our local KPBS, they also sponsored it. So it's kind of open. It's like we are hiring, we have hired some ambassadors, some of them are in this room in the corner here, to help film, and then there's hundreds of volunteers and people that will just be filming things that they're doing that day. So just one note, even if you're busy, like a birthday party or things going on, they want all of that type of footage because that also shows what happened in San Diego on this day. They're collectively putting it together, and they're making a 3-part series for PBS that'll screen across the country. So if you have any more questions, I don't know if my information is on here, but I'll pass out my card, and you guys can hit me up and give me, ask me your questions. But it's this Saturday, so thank you.
Yay! Well done. We do tips and tricks at each meeting. I want to get through these quickly, so I'm going to read them incredibly fast. Writing. When writing for a client, use the simplest, clearest language. Urge clients to do the same. Buzzwords and jargons are the opposite of communication. Those are words that some people understand and some people don't. Let the client know that you want to use words that everyone can understand. Producing. This is a specific thing. I did a commercial recently where I needed a closed street. It's expensive to close a street because you need permits and police officers. However, there is a street at the far end of the Cricket Wireless Amphitheater that has a gate on either end, and Cricket owns it. You can pay them money and they will close the street, and you can shoot on that street. It's a whole lot less than hiring cops and getting permits, private property. All they need is insurance and some money. I'm not going to say how much money, because they gave me a big damn deal. Directing. When clients want to use their employees in a video or a commercial, urge them to hire actors to do the jobs of those employees. When they say, why would I hire actors to do my employees' jobs? They won't know what they're doing. I'll say, exactly! Camera. It used to be in the film era, the phrase think fast, focus, aperture, shutter, tack, but it still works. Before you shoot a shot, remind yourself to check focus, to check your aperture, to check your shutter speed, and to check your tack, meaning your frame rate. Just as a standard practice, when you hit the record button, make sure that your aperture and your focus have all been confirmed. Editors, I had this recently. When using certain DSLRs or even in certain shots, sync the audio based on when you see the slate close and not when you see the audio click in the waveform. Because I've discovered a few clips from a couple different cameras where the slate closes here on this frame, and 2 frames later, the audio click is there. Okay, so, and it looks out of sync. Even it's the camera, it's the audio that's recorded in the camera that's out of sync. And so then when you sync it to other audio or other cameras, it's all going to end up that 2 frames out of sync. So use the video instead of the audio. So let's get to the meeting. Yay! It's only been 45 minutes. Our first half of this meeting is an NAB wrap-up, and we have 2 folks to speak about that. The 2 Erics. We have Eric Naso and Eric Addison. Eric Naso at BRIKNASO.com. Great blog. He's a cameraman for NBC and does those awesome promos that they've been rocking. Love your promos. But his blog is like reading a nerd's encyclopedia. But it's turned into plain old language. You do a great job of turning all that info into thoughts and facts that we can use. Eric Addison is a owner of 100 Acre Films, and is a primarily an editor. Most of your background is it depends on the day of the week, but primarily an editor, I think, because I think of him as an editor because he knows so damn much about it. So you two come on up and let's talk about NAB. Oh, yeah. I think that's a brilliant idea.
I'll just start rambling.
So ladies and gentlemen, Mike Towle on the mic. Yo. I'm gonna sit next to the black magic here. Aren't you supposed to just drop the mic? Our insurance doesn't cover
Yeah, I'll stand, just because. So who went to NAB? Just a couple of people, cool. NAB was insane, as it always is, and some of the crazy, insane stuff. For me, I remember going to NAB, and we were just talking about this when there was like Sony, Panasonic, and JVC were huge booths, right? And now it's really weird because you walk in, and Sony's still got a big booth, but they're way over here, and Panasonic's got a big booth, but they're way over here. But the huge booths are Blackmagic, and Red, and Canon, and all of these new players. So let's talk a little bit about cameras, because there's some interesting stuff with cameras. Eric, let's talk about the Ursa.
So we got two amazing new cameras, and I think they're both made by car companies, because their names are just ridiculous. So we have the Hyundai Ursa. It's a 4K camera. No, actually, the AJ camera and the Blackmagic cameras are really interesting because actually they look like cameras now. They don't look like boxes with lenses attached to them. Ursa is interesting because it has an iPad on the side for a monitor. It's like a 10-inch monitor that pops out, and it looks kind of ridiculous, but I think it's going to work out better than it looks because we all want a field monitor, and I think it might work out. A couple of things on both of those cameras that are misses to me. No built-in ND filters. That's just kind of crazy. I know they're kind of production-oriented, but so is the C500, C300, C100, and the FS700, right? That has a ND filter wheel. Big miss to me. Big hit, though, with the Ursa is it has a upgradable mount. Now, here's what's crazy. The Ursa actually has the sensor built in to the mount. So that's kind of crazy, right? If you buy a new mount, guess what else you get to buy? A new sensor. So that's going to make it a very expensive camera to have multiple use with. But also cool is, what if they make a new sensor? See, now you buy a new mount, and you have an upgradable sensor, which is kind of unheard of, right? And Red does that, but it's a pretty expensive proposition to buy a new sensor for a Red camera. The AJA camera, what's
well, before we go away from the Ursa, yeah, there was one thing that was kind of interesting on the Ursa, and it gets Blackmagic once again the weirdest image from NAB, because last year the weirdest image from NAB, right, was the new pocket camera that was this big, right, with a gigantic lens on it, right?
Right.
But this year the odd image was the Ursa with a DSLR on rails in front of it, with the HDMI plugged into the Ursa, because they have the one plate, like dummy plate on the front.
Right.
Thoughts on that?
I think I was at the Blackmagic press conference when with Grant Petty, the CEO. He showed us all these cameras, and that was kind of a joke. That was, when they brought that up, but the joke was that look how versatile this thing is. It can be actually a recorder, not just a camera. So you can pop this HDMI mount on it, and it'll do 4K, it'll do whatever. You can just pop anything on there and use it that way. But when they rail mounted a 5D Mark III on it, the whole crowd was like, "Oh, you guys are crazy like a fox." But yeah, no, it's an interesting camera. It's big. It's not too heavy. I didn't get a handhold one. It was all on the thing, but it's big. It's kind of funny because we're going big now.
Yeah.
We're going back to normal cameras and sort of that ENG-ish style that we like to use if we're shooting an event, but who's going to run around with a Ursa to shoot at a wedding? I don't know, maybe someone will.
You would definitely need to put a separate EVF on it, because I don't know if you guys have seen the form factor on this camera, but basically the whole side, think of something the size of like an old Betacam, right? But the whole side flips out to this huge, like 10, 11
10-inch monitor.
10-inch monitor. And I don't know about you guys, but trying to shoot anything ENG with that, I can't see what's happening in the real world, so I can get shots. So you would have to put a separate EVF on it.
The funny thing for me, I was looking at the Ursa, there was a guy standing next to me, and I think I told you the story, I think he was from Texas, and he goes, look at this. Look at that viewfinder. That's an American camera right there. he goes, this thing was probably made in Texas. Everything's bigger on it. And yeah, it's the biggest viewfinder I've ever seen, but it's ergonomically, it would be a nightmare. I mean, I own a 700, and it's ergonomically challenged, but it's a delight to the Ursa. I mean, you can't do anything with this thing if you don't have a mount or some sort of rig for it. But yeah, it's an intriguing camera, but I don't know that it would be my go-to camera. But.
So let's talk about AJA.
That camera has kind of got me very interested. But here's the miss on that one. It's PL only. It's really not designed to do anything other than probably heavy duty production. Yeah, I keep getting conflicting statements on that.
They told me at the booth.
They did tell you that? Okay, because I saw it, the mount had the screws on it, so you could take it off. But that'd be great. They don't talk about it on their website too much at all. But that would make, and if it has to be electronic, obviously, you can't have a camera like that and not have an electronic EF mount. That would be a miss. But no neutral density filters. Again, it's kind of one of those things. I mean, I don't like putting filters on every lens that I use outside or to control the light, to get that shallow depth of field that you really want. And the lighting is not quite there for you. I just don't, it's just a little switch. It's so perfect. So I missed that. But that camera's really cool. It shoots 60 frames per second. It does ProRes 444, 422, which is awesome. You basically pull that card out and stick it in your editor or download it and you're editing. That's pretty nice. Just a ergonomic camera too. I actually got to throw that one on my shoulder. The guys at AJA were really nice. Yeah. And that felt pretty good. A little front heavy still, but it had a cinema lens on it, which are heavy. But definitely lighter than the Arri Amira, which I threw on my shoulder, and it reminded me of a dockable Betacam that that thing was heavy.
Not even Betacam, but dockable Betacam.
Dockable Betacam, baby. Yeah, I think that was over 25 pounds, and I was like, wow, like that thing was heavy. They're calling that a documentary camera. I wouldn't want to shoot with that for very long at all. I'm past those days. But it's an Arri, so it's gonna look like an Arri. We all love that image. It's beautiful, but definitely heavy.
And that's just a 1080 camera, right? That doesn't go
HD only. And I think no, it doesn't do. It does. I don't think it does 2K. Is it 2K and HD?
One thing to keep in mind about both the Ursa and the Scion, the AJA and the Blackmagic, and we didn't really talk about this, was the price. Yeah. The Scion is like $9 grand, and it's a 4K camera. The Blackmagic, depending on what configuration you buy, is $59.95 or $64.95, I think. Now, granted, with the Blackmagic, you have to outfit that out. You're going to have to buy an EDF, you're going to have to buy the cards, the drives, and I think the other thing that I was surprised about, you have to buy a battery pack for it as well. It doesn't come with batteries. And so, these are great cameras. If you don't own a camera now, you want to get into 4K, and you don't have the money for a RED, this might be a way to go. But again, don't let that price fool you. It's $9 grand, it's 64. You still have to buy some other stuff. So you might end up spending 12, 13, 14, 15 grand, but you're going to spend that and you're going to have a 4K camera.
But that's amazingly cheap for a 4K camera. I mean, think of, Blackmagic just stirred it up. It's over, as far as, the only ones that can charge the huge money is going to be, like Arri and Panasonic with their Vericam.
Well, it's funny, it's like Blackmagic out-redded Red, right? Because Red was the first guys that came in and went, Sony, $90,000 for a camera, here's one for 20, and everybody went, and then Blackmagic comes out with a 6 grand.
Right, Red became Sony real fast.
We forgot to mention this on the Blackmagic stuff, but we talked about it in back, the studio camera that they had.
Yeah, that, I laughed when I first saw it. I don't know if you guys, are you familiar with the studio camera? Have you seen it? It's kind of crazy. It looks like a laptop, 15-inch, I think it's a little over 10, maybe it's 10, but it's a monitor that's basically, you just take this portion of the Blackmagic camera and it's got a big monitors attached to it.
Like
And
an
it's
iPad with a camera.
like an iPad slapped on the back, and it doesn't have a recorder on it, and it has Ethernet. You can basically take, and it's cheap. I mean, it was like $3 grand for this thing, and you could basically run your own television station in your house with 3 cameras and some Ethernet cable and a switcher. And that's amazing. That is liberating. I think the rest of the world, you know, it's maybe not in the United States, but the web, live web, you know, third world countries. You know what I mean? I'm just kidding. But, you know, places that just don't have, like, you know, American broadcasting or smaller countries, South America maybe would probably be a great place for, you know, people can actually do broadcasting without spending a boatload of money. That's a game changer. You didn't really hear a lot about that, but I saw that after I saw it first, I was like, this is ridiculous. But when you tie all that in, there's nothing like that. And it's they're going to have a 4K version. Right now it's HD version. I don't know, I find that just really intriguing.
The other thing too about Blackmagic to keep in mind, that they're slowly developing an entire workflow.
Yeah.
I mean, they have the cameras, they have the cards for when you're editing in your system, they have the finishing with Resolve, and we'll get to in a minute, you know, Resolve is now morphing.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised at all in 2 to 3 years, Blackmagic kind of says, we do it all for you. And we're a complete solution, start to finish. I mean, all they need is a codec that, you know, to record into, and they're on their way.
Well, I'm not even sure they need a codec, just piggyback on top of the codec.
Right. Well, actually, they do have their own codec now that I think about it.
Oh, do they?
They have a Blackmagic card, they have their, isn't there a Blackmagic thing you can record to? I think.
It's ProRes and DMS.
Yeah.
ProRes.
Okay.
I love ProRes. Blackmagic loves Pro.
What was that camera you were talking about with the 3K?
You mean the studio camera? It's the Blackmagic Studio camera. Yeah, it's on their website. They have all the pictures of it, and you'll look at it and go, what the heck is that?
So I was really hopeful as an editor that by the time we got to 2014, the DSLR workflow would be gone, because it drives me insane. And I was so happy to really think it would be gone. And 5 minutes ago, I was standing in the back with Eric, and he told me it ain't gone. So let's talk about that DSLR stuff.
Yeah, all right. How many of you guys still shoot video with DSLRs? Yeah, see, it ain't gone. It ain't going anywhere. Now, it's going to be 4K. So you're just going to be continuing on with this type of work with those cameras. 2 cameras that I was super impressed with is the Sony a7S, full frame mirrorless camera that does 4K, doesn't do it internally, but does it externally to an external recorder, and will work with the new Atomos recorder, which we'll touch on later, the Shogun, which is amazing. Panasonic has a new GH4 in their lineup, and I'll have one tomorrow. I wish this meeting was tomorrow. I would have loved to have brought that. You guys would have had a lot of fun to look at that one.
The Sony only records the AVCHD, right?
AVCHD, and it has their own codec.
XAVC
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whatever.
You can't get anything, you can't get ProRes. How do you?
No ProRes internal. Yeah, no, these cameras, no. AVCHD for the,
Are you gonna own that camera,
Yep.
Panasonic?
$1,600 is a bargain for a 4K internal recording camera.
What do you like about it?
I like that it shoots 4K internally on an SD card. That's really
That's tough to
cool.
But it's not a short depth of field type camera, correct?
You know what, Micro Four Thirds, it is Micro Four Thirds. That's not that much smaller than S35 if you look at it. And the shallow depth of field thing that the Micro Four Thirds cameras get kicked around for, I think it's just not an argument. I shot with an AF100 for 2 years, and it looked pretty amazing. I love that camera. It just kind of, you know, it didn't evolve, unfortunately. And that was kind of, to me, another miss. I was dying to see an AF200, 2K, whatever, 4K. Panasonic didn't do it, but they did the GH4.
So you're a C100 guy, right?
I am, and a C300 as well.
So they're just all up on the shelf now for
No way.
the right job?
Absolutely not. Those
Okay.
are workhorse cameras. I'm a broadcast guy, I don't need 4K. But 4K is an awesome resolution for acquisition. So a lot of people say, oh, I don't need 4K broadcast, never going to be 4K in the United States for another 25 years. Why would I want to shoot 4K? How many people shot HD when everything was standard def? Raise your hand. Yeah. Well, what did you do with it? You shrunk it down and put it on a DVD, right? For your clients? It looked way better than standard def did when you captured it, when you did acquisition. And you can reframe in post. We've been doing this for 10, 15 years. Same thing with 4K. Now we're shooting 4K, and nobody needs 4K, which is fine. Now we can, you know, reframe in post. We can do pans. We can take one interview, and I can shoot you practically full body, and I can punch in. That's awesome. And when you have all that resolution, almost 4 times the resolution of HD, when you take that resolution and you compress it down to HD, 4K to HD, the detail is going to be awesome. Don't you remember that when you were shooting HD and delivering on DVD, how much better your stuff looked? So we're there again. It's just that we're evolving. So don't worry about whether 4K, oh, we'll never have to, you know, be 4K on television. Doesn't matter. 4K is awesome. Embrace it. It's cool. You got resolution to play with. You can hide your flaws. You can frame crappy and fix it in post.
He says that like I have to do that all the time.
No, like that's what the clients will give you, right?
Oh, well,
the guy
yeah.
will shoot something, it's terrible. You're like, hey, I'll fix it in post.
The thing to keep in mind about 4K, and I'm excited about getting 4K for my 700 as well, but the thing to keep in mind is it introduces a whole new level of workflow stuff that you need to really think about. So before any of you just go out and buy a 4K camera and think this is going to be an awesome, glorious new age, you're going to have some hard drive space. You're going to have a system that can handle it. You're going to have to develop a workflow and learn how to deal with 4K. It's, you know, it's just like when we went from SD to HD. You know, I remember having a laptop that cut SD flawlessly, and I remember going and doing my first HD edit with a client there on this old laptop, and it was dragging and slow. And I remember I told the producer that was on the show with me, I said, I think it's time I bought a new laptop, and went out the next week and did. So, you know, if you're thinking about jumping into 4K, just be aware, it's, you know, do some homework. You know, rent a camera, shoot some stuff, see what the file sizes are like, figure out if your system currently is going to be able to handle that, because, you know, it's not just like, oh, it's just a new format, I'll just add that in, so.
Yeah, that's true. And you can also find a lot of 4K footage online. Just download it, see how your system works. I was actually surprised. I'm running a really old Mac Pro at work, and when the 4K Blackmagic production camera first came out, Grant Petty went out and shot a bunch of scenics. I don't know if you guys saw that. I downloaded the stuff and graded it on a 2010 MacBook Mac Pro, and it edited fine. It played back fine. I was kind of blown away. So it's not like HDV was, you know, where HDV just killed your computer because that compression is just nasty, and it just struggles to play it. It's not like that. It's better than what was happening in the past. And computers are so much better now than they were in the past. It's all about your graphics card, really, more than anything else.
And I think we can all agree that 4K is here. It's not going away.
Nope.
It's what's coming down the pipe. Thank God 3D's dead, but 4K's not. 4K's coming. And if you don't believe it's coming, let's talk about the Shogun, because that proves it right there.
That is one of the coolest things I've seen. That monitor is gorgeous. Really nice.
Well, what is the Atomos Shogun to start?
I'm sorry. The Atomos Shogun is basically a 7-inch display that has a 4K HDMI recorder, and it does it just like Atomos is famous for. That uses, you know, SSD drives that are, I don't know what you call, authorized or approved. Much cheaper than the other options, where like Convergent Design, which makes a beautiful, really nice, beautiful recorder. But you have to buy their proprietary drives, and they cost a lot more. But this Atomos Shogun is just, it's amazing. $2,000. Does 4K via HDMI, so your GH4, if you want to shoot ProRes, you'll be able to do that. With the A7S Sony, you'll be able to shoot ProRes 4K. Pretty sweet. I mean, these are DSLRs. That DSLR is not going away. When you have recorders like that, and then you put them on little cameras, you know.
And it's shooting to ProRes, so
It's shooting
you're,
ProRes,
you're handing it
yeah.
off to your editor.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to fight with anything. He can just drop it into a system. And I believe
Yeah.
it shoots DNX HD as well, right? Which
It-
is an
it
Avid
does.
codec, and if I remember right, Premiere's now heading that way as well.
No, Premiere supports ProRes.
It supports ProRes, but
Oh,
it'll
yeah,
also
I
support
cut
DNX.
ProRes all the time in Premiere Pro, CS6 as well. Yeah, and I think DNX HD is also available in 8-bit, where I think ProRes is only 10-bit, so I think the files might be a little bit smaller.
You can do 8-bit DNX, yeah, 8-bit
Yeah.
or 10-bit.
So if you don't need that extra bit, you save a little bit of space, you know, that's something we can all use a little.
Just to keep us kind of moving along, I want to talk about one more thing in acquisition, and then we'll move on to post. And that one thing I want to talk about, if you didn't think he was a camera nerd before, here it comes, lenses.
Oh yeah, man. Canon came out with a 17 to 120 S35 cinema zoom, and it's beautiful. And it's expensive, but it's not a lens you're gonna buy because it's 30 grand. But I'm telling you, if you need something like that, all the rental houses are gonna have it. It's got their mount is interchangeable. Canon doesn't say it's user interchangeable, but you can put an EF or a PL on there, and it's pretty fantastic. I checked that out for a long time. It's beautiful. Being able to zoom in from 17 to 120, and it's S35, so it's not going to be this monster lens like you normally see on a cinema camera. That to me shows Canon's commitment to S35, and 4K will be coming down the pike, I'm sure, with another camera other than the C500. But that's another thing. I'm kind of bummed that Canon didn't do anything, but Canon doesn't like NAB for camera releases. They don't do it. They do their own big show, and they don't do it that way. But
Well, at least they're there. I mean, you can
They're
be
there.
a Final Cut editor.
you know what's kind of funny was,
Nobody.
I don't know if you noticed, but they had the Sony F55 in the Canon booth with that 17 to 120 on it.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy, huh? And then you go over to the Sony booth, and they had a C500 in their booth. So there's some kind of cool mojo going on there. It's weird. Kind of cool.
Let's talk about post. Or do you got comments on lenses?
I'm not a lens junkie like he is. So I saw some Zeiss lenses that I thought were pretty cool, but I'm just now dipping into that lens pool now that I have a camera that I can throw these lenses on. So I'm not the guy to talk to about that.
All right, let's talk about post. First off, let's talk about Avid, because we were talking in the hallway, because I went to the Avid booth, and their big push was Avid Anywhere. I'm sorry, Avid Everywhere, Adobe Anywhere, Avid Everywhere.
Adobe was first.
And I walked out of there going, I have no idea what the hell Avid Everywhere is. And you said you had an idea,
Well,
so
okay,
enlighten me, brother.
So I came into this presentation a little bit late. When you go to NAB, for those of you who've been there, you reach like the end of your last day, and you're just trying to find a booth to sit in, just to rest your legs. And so Avid just was one of those booths that's like, oh look, I'm going to sit here. But it worked out because it was kind of interesting. So from what I got from it, Avid Everywhere was designed for broadcasters. So you could be out in the field shooting with whatever. I mean, they were demoing it with an iPhone. And you can shoot this, you can upload from your iPhone the footage to the studio. The reporter can be writing the story, that text can be in this sort of interface that they had. They can start editing the show, or the piece, back at the studio with the footage that you're uploading to them. And then when you get back, you can finish it off. And what I thought was really interesting is they had a thing in there where you could, for social media. So let's say you wanted to promote the story that, you're a reporter, you want to promote the story on Twitter, you could export a still from one of the video clips, write a little blurb, or just take selections of blurb from the voiceover that you're putting together for the story, and there's a thing in there to Facebook and to Twitter, and it'll automatically post it for you with like a little thing. So I thought, wow, that's kind of interesting. But Avid's whole push is to sort of be anywhere and edit, So because they had that, and then they had Media Composer Cloud, which that was Avid Everywhere seemed to be a little bit different than Media Composer Cloud. Avid Everywhere was designed for broadcast, where Media Composer Cloud was much closer to what Adobe Anywhere is, which is you have this server somewhere, and then you can just start editing from that server wherever you happen to be through the internet.
And the other thing I got from Avid, and it wasn't just Avid that was doing this now, for all of you that don't like the subscription model, it may suck for you, but it's the goose that laid the golden egg for the manufacturers. Avid is now going to have a subscription model for Media Composer. I've yet to figure out what the pricing is. I've heard rumors of $50 a month. You can still go in and purchase it outright, so they haven't done away with that. But there's going to be a subscription-based or a subscription model for Media Composer.
It's like, the way I understood it was if you wanted to buy Avid outright and own it, it's $12.99 for Media Composer. And then that gets you a free year of service and upgrades. And then beyond that, if you want to maintain that, it's $2.99 to keep that upgrade and service going. Right. If you do the subscription model, then all of that, yeah, I couldn't find a price either, but you just sort of, that all just kind of keeps flowing, you know. So they're trying to avoid the Adobe backlash, which was, you know, screw you, we're not renting our software. They're at least trying to give you a choice. But when you really think about it, you know, you're $12.99 plus the $2.99, you're still paying something every year to maintain, for get updates and service, you know, and with the subscription, to me, you know, I'm one of those people that thinks it's a great idea. You know, I love getting the updates. As an Adobe user, when Adobe's ready to put something out there, I want it, give it to me. Because it's probably a feature that I need, or I've been requesting for a while now, so give it to me.
Well, and I think the other advantage with the subscription model is you can turn it on, you can turn it off when you don't need it, right? I edit mainly in Final Cut 10, but there's times when I have to do stuff for NBC. NBC edits in Premiere. I could turn my CC subscription off, which I don't because I want a free CC subscription at the Premiere Pro user group last year. But I could turn that off and not use it and not pay X amount of dollars per month. I get a job that comes in from NBC, I've got to edit on Premiere, I turn it on for a month, do that edit, turn it back off, right? And nowadays, in a world where I really believe that you should own multiple edit systems, come on guys, they're all inexpensive nowadays, and it really is a first world problem. Use the edit system that fits the edit the best. And with the subscription model, you can turn it on, turn it off as you need it.
I mean, just if you run a small production company here, and how many people do run a small production company? You're not a freelancer editor, okay. So how often do you have to freelance work out? Occasionally. It would be nice to be able to say, okay, I don't want to have to buy a whole CC. So if I hire you to do some editing for me, and I know you're only going to be using it for 2 months, I only have to pay the $100 to license it to you for that 2 months, and then boom, it's done. So, you know, that's a pretty small price to pay from a production company standpoint, just to get somebody a seat to do some work, just short term.
And the other thing that, before we move away from Avid, that they were talking about was like a content cloud, so that you can create content and then buy and sell content within this environment. Right now, it's just turned on for audio stuff, for Pro Tools guys, but it's supposed to come into the video world as well. I don't know if that's really that viable of a business model for them. There's already Pond 5, there's already tons of other places where we can buy stock footage. Interesting that they're trying to get into that world. To be honest, I'm worried for Avid, because I'm an old-time Avid editor and I really like Avid, but I'm kind of worried about where they're going to go.
I'm curious about something. How many people have an issue with subscription base? Raise your hand. That's not much.
Yeah.
That's probably a big difference from a year ago.
So let's move away from Avid and let's talk about Adobe. I think Adobe really had some cool stuff that came in this year, especially on the Premiere side. And I'm not going to rain on your parade or steal your thunder. Talk about it.
To read my notes here. First of all, it was awesome to see. Was it 16 people or so? 16 people, Premiere users in this room? First of all, where are the 16 people that use Premiere on a regular basis? Okay, I expect to see all of you at the next Premiere Pro user group meeting. Come on, get with it. May 22nd, we're gonna, yeah, that's right, May 22nd, I expect to see everybody here at the meeting with Walter coming out. That will be really, really cool. But beyond that, third Thursday of every month, man, if you wanna hang out with your Premiere brethren, learn some skills, and get it going, that's where you wanna be. Talk to me afterwards.
Hey Eric, is there a door prize on May 22nd?
Yes, there is, Mike. Thank you for asking. Who would like to win a free year of Adobe Creative Cloud? Why is not every hand up? Come on, really? Are you going to turn it down, really? Okay, we're going to raffle one off on the 22nd, among other things. So that's an incentive to come out. It's free. Come on, come out. What else are you going to be doing on a Thursday night? All right, now, moving on. Yeah, the cool stuff from Premiere. The biggest thing, there's a couple big things. Masking and tracking is inside Premiere now, which is really, really nice. It's something that they've been needing for a while. And the ability to create a mask and then motion track it is pretty nice.
I'm referring to that as the I'm a reality TV editor and get all of those goddamn logos out of my shot.
Yes.
Is what that is.
And the nice thing too is that mask and track data carries over into After Effects. So that is kind of nice. The big thing too that I really liked was I do most of my lower thirds for my projects in After Effects, bring them over through Dynamic Link. It sucks when you have to make a spelling change or a title change, whatever. You have to go back into After Effects and change it there and then go back to Premiere. Now you can do all that text updating inside Premiere. You no longer have to go over to After Effects just to update the text. Now if you want to change graphics or things like that, you still got to go back to After Effects. But just to change the spelling or a title or whatever, you can do all that inside Premiere now. Master clip effects. So let's say you have a clip that somebody shot and they didn't white balance. Eric would never do that.
Yeah, why are you pointing at me?
What you can do now is drop the color correction tool on the clip in your bin, correct it there, and now whenever you drag that clip to the timeline, that effect stays there and it's color corrected. So it's on the master clip. You don't have to edit it in and then go into each individual clip and fix each clip with that same effect.
But it'll ripple through to the timeline if you already have footage in the timeline.
Exactly.
And you apply the color correction. And bear in mind, this isn't just color correction. This isn't just source side color correction. It's any effect.
Any effect.
That you apply to that master clip in the source monitor. It will stay there. It will ripple through to all of the instances of that clip within your timeline. This is extremely powerful. I mean, I first saw this in Avid just with color correction on Avid Symphony. The ability to go in and do source side and have it ripple through to all of your edits. But this is, again, not just color correction, any effect. This rocks, and that's coming from a Final Cut 10 editor. I want that.
We talked about 4K, and one thing that Adobe did to the next version of Premiere is 4K debayering using the GPU. So let's say you don't have that beefy of a processor, but you've got a really nice graphics card. Premiere want to leverage the GPU on that graphics card to play back your 4K stuff, closer to real time. So that's a huge thing too. It'll save you a little bit of. You might have to go buy a new graphics card, but in my opinion, you should be buying a new graphics card every couple years anyway, just because the technology is changing so much. Cards are getting faster and faster, and software is relying on those GPUs more and more and more.
Spoken like a true PC guy.
That's right. Let's see. Expanded format support. They now do DCP files. So if you're doing a feature and you need to do a digital cinema, I forget what the P stands for. Is it projection? I think it's digital cinema projection.
Sure.
Sure. It supports that now. And a few guys I know that have done features were super, super happy about that. Let's see, what else do I have? I think I have just a couple of, one thing that I thought was really, really cool. How many people shoot with GoPros here? How many times do you get frustrated because of the lens distortion? Yeah. I know that GoPro makes software to kind of correct that. Premiere now has presets that fix that. So you just drag the preset onto your footage and boom, it's fixed. So it's handy, handy, handy. Real quick, in After Effects, they have a few new cool things we'll talk about real briefly, is a per mask effect. So you can actually apply an effect just to a mask now. They've got a new key cleaner for digital preserving accuracy. So it helps you pull better keys. And they've got an advanced spill suppressor in there as well. A new curves effect, and you can actually now, through Mercury Transmit, send out your After Effects stuff to an external monitor for playback, which is kind of nice. So, and that's built in. You don't need to have a special card for that. It's built into After Effects now. So that's the Adobe stuff.
Well, the other thing on After Effects, and this may have actually come in a version before, was the ability to, I don't know, I'm calling it smart scaling, the ability to scale up an image and not have it go to hell.
Right.
I mean, to a certain
That
extent.
came in the last version.
But that's, I saw the demo of that and I was kind of blown away.
Yeah, that's, if you're an After Effects user, I mean, how many people have ever done like a photo montage and they give you all these photos and like 5 of them, and they're usually the photos that are like the must-have photos, are like 100 by 200. And you're like, I can't do anything with this. Okay, After Effects has this detailed upscale preserve, and it is amazing. I actually posted some pictures that I had done with it, and I was blown away. So you can just send your photos over there, upscale it. I'm told the stuff, it was in Photoshop first, and they ported it over into After Effects. I don't really know Photoshop that well, so when I heard that, I'm like, oh really, I was there the whole time?
Well, the other real cool use case I see for it is if you have to stabilize it, right? Because if you've got a really shaky shot and you've got to stabilize, it's got to blow it up a little bit so that you don't lose the edges. And I was just kind of blown away by how
I don't know that it's how well it works with footage. I have to say, I've tried it with some SD stuff, blowing it up, and it hasn't been as well. With stills, it works really, really well.
Okay, maybe I lied to you, it doesn't work as good.
So, but if you have still images, it's awesome. Video, I don't know yet. Yeah, I haven't really had to put it through its paces on that. The other thing I'll talk about real quick, to get back to subscriptions, Red Giant is in the subscription.
Well, hold on.
Oh,
Before
okay,
we go, let's not go to plugins yet.
Oh,
Because there's one other thing in the editing world that I thought, this is interesting.
Well, before that, one thing I'd like to say is the one thing that last year was everywhere at NAB and was on everybody's tongue and mouth. It was just like, oh, smoke.
Yeah.
Smoke just like vanished.
Into smoke.
Into smoke. I mean, the Autodesk booth was tiny. Last year it was huge. There was this one little pod station showing smoke, and there was nothing. And it was like last year, it was smoke, smoke, smoke's going to be it. And, Adobe and Apple and everybody are going to be, and nobody was talking about smoke.
Yeah, it just goes to show you how much it'll change in a year. So let's talk about Resolve. Resolve got really interesting this year. For those of you that don't know, DaVinci Resolve is kind of an industry standard color correction tool. And last year at NAB, they put a little bit of editing into it. You could do some trimming here and there. And they said, well, no, we're not trying to make it an editor. We just want it to have the ability to do a couple of trims here and there if needed. That all changed this year. They were liars.
It is not, let's be clear, it's not a full-fledged NLE.
Right.
Okay, but when you can trim, when you can add titles, when you can do some effects, you're getting into the NLE waters.
But it's more than just, they added a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
They added dynamic trimming.
Yeah.
So that they added asymmetric trimming. They added the ability to go in, not just add keyframes on your video, but adjust Bezier handles on your keyframes. They're heading down a road that's looking really cool to me.
But as I sat there and watched them, it was very smoke-esque in that, you wanted to, I remember last year talking to the smoke guys, and they were so big on like, we do it all here. You want to do when you want to do visual effects, you click over this button and you have a whole new UI, and boom, you're doing After Effects type stuff. And then you click back over here, now you're editing. And you do some finishing, click this button, and now you get a new UI and it's this, but it's all one app. And it was the same sort of thing with Resolve. Like the guy was clicking back and forth between these different UIs to sort of do everything. And I don't know that that's always the best way to go. To me, the bigger the program, the more likely for bugs and other kind of stuff you run into. But you're right, it is very, very close to being a full-fledged NLE, and I would be incredibly surprised if next year it's not. The one really cool thing that I saw that I actually went up to the Adobe guys afterwards and said, you need to steal that. I don't know if you saw this or not, but they had some footage that was shot, I think, just raw, and they had a color chip chart.
Oh yeah.
And they had a tool where so it's just all flat, and you could they had this little diagram of the chip chart, and you just line it up, and all the squares line up to the color chart. You click one button, and boom, it instantly sort of becomes beautiful. And it was like, wow, it reads all the colors, it does the adjustments, and it's they'll tell you that it's not what you should, it's a good starting point. But yeah, there was a lot of really cool features in Resolve, and You know, I don't know that it's your everyday editor, but it's
I'm just
on its
curious,
way.
I'm curious to see where it's gonna go. I mean, it's missing a lot of things right now. There's no multicam support. There's no ability to sync inside of it. There's obviously no third-party application support for like plugins, which will be my segue to plugins. Let's talk about Red Giant.
Okay, how many people use Red Giant stuff? Okay, good. I love, if you're not using Red Giant stuff, you should check them out. Colorista, Looks, you know, those are the two biggies that I never go into battle editing without. But they have a new set of plugins called Universe, and it is subscription-based. You can use it, but Red Giant gives you options. They have a set of free transitions that you can use. They have a $99 a year subscription, which will get you the free transitions as well as a series of other plugins, including Holomatrix, TuneIt, some of their other products they've put into this plugin set. And then for I think it's $3.99, but that price may be changing. You get a lifetime subscription. Now the cool thing about it is they're going to be updating this with new plugins, and they're going to leave it up to users to sort of decide what those plugins are. So they might, you know, later this year put up, well, we've got this plugin, this plugin, this plugin, and this plugin. What would you guys really like to see? Everybody votes, and then maybe the top two or the top one, they add that in. So it's going to be an evolving set of tools to work. So it's not like you're just going to pay this money and then you're stuck with this stuff forever. It's going to grow with you over time, which I kind of like. Some of the transitions are a little cheesy. Some of them are really nice. Some of the effects, I don't know that I would ever use. Some of them are actually kind of cool. But it's a really cool set of stuff. I would definitely say check it out. They have a free beta right now where you can download it and try it. I would say try it out, see what you think. The nice thing too is, getting back to what I said before about GPU, all of the effects are GPU accelerated. They fly. You know, you drop them in and they'll, if you have a good GPU card, they'll access that, and you won't have to be rendering as much to get them to play back. So that was the really big thing. And then Magic Bullet actually just released Looks 2.5 today, or yesterday.
I think it was yesterday. I haven't downloaded it.
And I used the heck out of it already on a promo that's gonna air on.
Did you?
Yeah,
Well, what are your thoughts on it? I mean,
Yeah.
Well, it's faster, a lot faster. And the hover previews are sweet.
Very nice.
So, yeah, you put.
so what are hover previews?
Well, when you go into Looks, you drop the Look plugin on there, you can go to basically the baked-in looks that they create. And then you open up that little slider and it slides open. The frame, you don't play back the footage inside of Looks. It kind of gives you, wherever you parked, your timeline dealie there. Is that an official name for that?
Official.
Yeah, that thing. Wherever you park it, it shows up as that frame inside of Looks. And then you just take your mouse and you just sort of hover over the samples of the look, and it will show you what that look looks like before you have to commit to it, which is super nice, because I used to always have to click, 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 and see it. It's much more responsive. You can just tell it's really kind of peppy. Then you can change all the parameters inside of the bottom there, and you can add more. You can change it. A new cool feature is after you've added the look, you go back and you close it. Shows up in your thingy. You can go into it and then open the plugin or open up the effect, and you can change sort of like how strong it is. Because sometimes that one look might be overly contrasty because the footage was too dark. It's not the same as the next shot was brighter. So now you can just back off the whole look a little bit as opposed to having to go in and change all those parameters. Huge time saver.
One of my problems always with Looks is that you park on the timeline and you go into the Looks interface, and it gives you that one frame that you parked on, right? So you may have a 10-second clip, but you're basing everything off of that one frame for the look. And if the lighting changes, something like that in that 10 seconds, that look may be way off by the time you get to the end of it. And I brought this up to the guys at Red Giant, and they assured me that that problem is going to be solved in the future.
They know.
And that and $4.65 will get you a caramel macchiato at Starbucks. But that's what they're telling me.
I can say that I've talked to the Red Giant folks quite a bit, and they're really, really friendly, and they are very open to their users giving them feedback. I mean, next to Adobe, Red Giant is one of the most open companies. They want to hear what you think. If their product sucks, tell them. If you love it, tell them. They want to know. But that has been one of the most requested things that I talked to them about it as well. you know, and yeah, they know, and so.
And for my Final Cut 10 brothers and sisters in the room, I also talked to them about getting Colorista over to Final Cut 10, because I love Colorista, use the hell out of it in Final Cut 7. And they've assured me that the newest release of Final Cut 10 allows them to now going back to using FX Plug as their architecture for writing the plugin, so Colorista 2 should be ported over to Final Cut 10 soon.
Hey, Mike, let me ask you guys something. How many of you guys, I mean, honestly, like, are afraid of grading and doing color correction? I mean, really honest, like, yeah, you don't want to do it, like the color wheel and the three-way is enough. How many just use the three-way color wheel only? Oh, that's cool. So how many you guys actually do grade your footage? That's pretty good. That's cool.
What do you guys use to grade it? You just do it inside the NLE? Resolve. What was it?
Color fast.
Color fast, okay.
If you've never used Colorista 2, you can get a light version. Try it out. It's pretty cool. And you can do all your color correction inside your NLE. And it's getting faster, it's working better, it's more, it used to kind of, you know, when I was Final Cut 7, it was really slow. But I used the heck out of it because I loved it. And it has masks and everything. You can stay right in there. If you don't want to leave your project and open up another color grading program and then try to go back and forth, it's super powerful, really, really great. And it also kind of, it's like a gateway drug, you know? It's the gateway color grader. Because once you start messing around, and you realize, ooh, I got 3 rooms to play with, right? That's kind of that whole philosophy of being, you know, doing true color grading is you go into your secondary, your primary, and your master, and then you start making all your changes. And I spend a lot of time in master. That's right. First place I go, I put a curve, start messing around, look at color, you know, do a little bit of maybe a little cooling down the scene. Then I can start moving forward to other parts. And if I want to, you know, I can apply that one effect on all these clips and then change them all with secondary and primary. I go backwards, not up and down. But you got to try it because, like I said, it'll introduce you to, oh, that's what that's all about. Very powerful.
Well, and one other thing, if you're a Premiere user and you have SpeedGrade, you know, if you're a CC user, it's there. The direct link feature now between Premiere and SpeedGrade is pretty amazing. I mean, I'm just now starting to learn SpeedGrade and color grading in general, and being able to just like click a button, my whole project opens up inside SpeedGrade. Everything's there, all the footage, titles, everything. And I can go through and grade the shots. I can do the color match, which is really, really nice. Just like if I have one shot that looks one way and I want that look to go on other clips, I can just put them up in the viewfinder, click the color match, and it will get there pretty close, sometimes dead on. But you can do all this grading inside SpeedGrade and then send it right back to Premiere and everything stays there. So, you know, it's getting easier to grade. It's easier, let's say, it's not getting easier to color grade. There's still an art to it, but getting the access to do it is becoming easier and easier. And that is an art form that, you know, I think a lot of people, you know, need to learn. I'm one of them. But yeah, anything you can do. And ColorFast, by the way, is a really good way to go from New Blue. I have to say, local boys, New Blue, have some really cool tools. And ColorFast is a great tool to have.
And that's a great segue because I was going to talk about New Blue. New Blue, for those of you that don't know, is a local company that produces plugins, and I've had a set of their plugins for a while, and unfortunately for me, New Blue kind of became the stepchild of plugins, and what I mean by that was I knew they were really good kids, but I wasn't paying any attention to them because I was playing with my kids over here inside of Final Cut 10. But this year, they came out with an upgrade to Titler Pro that kind of blew me away, and the thing that's really cool about it is it makes revisions easier. And any of you that do corporate work know that that is the bane of your existence, right? It's the constant corporate client coming back going, no, we decided we wanted the line in the lower third to be blue, and then you go in and you do 30 lower thirds and make it a blue line, and then they come back and go, oh, no, we want it yellow. This will allow you to create a template, change that template, it will ripple through to all of your lower thirds, or just one of your lower thirds, however you want it to. So it makes revisions really, really fast. I bought it on the spot. And you don't even have the Mac version ready yet. I just immediately bought it on the spot. So go to New Blue Effects, check those guys out. They have some cool stuff.
Titler Pro is awesome, and I promised Travis White, who works at New Blue, that I would learn Tyler Pro. I had Tyler Pro 1, I had Tyler Pro 2, and I'll be real honest, I don't use it all that much because there's a different learning curve, and After Effects is just like, it's just so quick to me and so easy, and I just want to get stuff done. But every time I see a demo with Tyler Pro, I'm just like, why the hell am I not using this more often?
It's the step
And when he showed me 3, I'm just like, this is it. I said, dude, I will learn this, and I will get out there and promote the goodness of Tyler Pro for you, because it is such an amazing product, and it is just one of those things that it's not enough people know about it and they don't use it. But trust me, if you sit down and start playing with it, I guarantee you'll be like, wow, this is really powerful to have in the NLE. Not going out to After Effects or Motion or whatever. It's right there. It's really nice.
Last thing to talk about, storage. I saw so much Thunderbolt 2 storage all over the place this year.
I'll say my piece, then I'll let you have yours. So that was a huge, huge thing for me this year, because I don't know about you, any of you guys out there, but I have a nice collection of hard drives at my office, and it's getting better. It's really pretty. All the colors and shapes. So that was a huge thing for me. I talked to the guys at Promax, and they had a good solution. I talked to the guys at Small Tree Communications. They had a couple different solutions. And again, this is my second or third NAB where I walked away not having a clear answer. I got real excited about a product that Sony had, which was, who remembers CD changers? Okay, how many have no clue what I'm talking about when I say CD changers? Where are the children in the room? So Sony has this little cartridge with a number of, I think it's 6 Blu-rays, and each cartridge will hold 300 gigs. And you can put it in, and it works just like a hard drive. So you can store 300 gigs of stuff on there, pull the cartridge out, set it on the shelf, and you're good to go. And so, as I started looking into hard drives, it became this, either I go LTO tape, which didn't really excite me too much, either I go hard drives, but that means that I'm going to keep buying hard drives because I'm going to keep accumulating data. So now what am I going to do? I'm eventually just going to have this huge room full of hard drives. This sort of seemed like, they told me the cartridges were about the same price as an LTO tape. At 300 gigs, I can fit a project on, maybe 2, with all the footage and everything else. And so, I thought, well, that might be the solution for me. The deck itself was around, well, the guy told me it was around $5 grand. When I went to B&H, it was more like 8. Nice. Thank you, Sony. But yeah, exactly. But the thing that so I got all excited about this, thinking, oh man, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. And the cab ride back to the airport, I was talking to a good friend of mine who works up in Hollywood and deals with this kind of stuff. And he goes, it's great until Sony stops supporting that deck. And then
Sony never does that.
Yeah. And then your cartridge breaks, and then what do you do? I go, I hadn't thought about that. So, I don't know if you got any more insight, but long-term storage project archiving, I still am back to, I think, where I was before I left. I have a couple options. None of them are cheap, and, what do you do?
Hold on. What do you got, Mark?
It's not something, but just question, you mentioned LTO, so then it's supposed to be LTO 6, and it's supposed to be like 1.3 cents a gig or something, so it's supposed to be pretty cheap. So, do you have any, do you see any LTO that you like, especially the number 6?
So Promax had a really cool little unit that would combine a series of hard drives with an LTO tape deck. And so, and that sort of was attractive to me because I said, okay, well, I can use the drives to sort of store footage and edit from them and things like that. And then when I'm all done, just pop a tape in, just go straight to the tape and boom, put it there. But, to get it all set up, I think, if I remember correctly, the price was like 15, 16, maybe 20 grand. Right. So boom. I mean, it's not it wasn't a complete deal breaker to me, but it was like, and the nice thing about it was, they said, well, you can start with just the rack of hard drives, and then later on, you can buy the tape deck. So I thought, well, that's pretty good. I like that. But, still, it's a big investment, and, you have to, we're going to have to do something. The tape decks are coming down in price. The tapes are, coming down. For me, it was a question of accessing the clips. Archiving the tape is great if you just want to take a project and put it on a shelf. But if you want to just find a particular clip in a particular project, like I have corporate clients that say, you remember that shot of the building you got for us in San Francisco? We need that for this video. Can you get us just that clip? Well, I mean, if you shoot tapeless, who knows which clip that is? So finding it on a hard drive is easy because I can use Adobe Prelude, pull it down. But on a tape, I got to pull the whole card down, then go through it, and so it works for some applications, not other applications. So it really depends on your workflow.
Right, and the project with archiving all of this, or the problem with archiving all this stuff, isn't just I need a whole bunch of storage to archive it. I also now need some type of digital asset management system so I can go find it. When a client comes back and says, I want that shot that you shot 2 years ago. Well, I got a wall full of tape, where the hell is it, right? And then you gotta have a body to input all that info.
Yeah, we're stuck, man. I don't think there's an answer yet. I think, and that's kind of sad, because we're dealing with all digital media now. There's no tape anymore with our cameras and everything. It's scary out there. And my solution has been, it's very old school. I'm still RAID 5. I got 3 RAID 5, setups at my house. How many I have at work? Zippo. And I'm playing with fire every day. I do the chicken dance, and I'm sacrificing a lamb outside and just praying don't crash. So I'm using RAID 0.
What do you do at work?
What do I what?
What do you do how do you accumulate those bits at work? How do you store them? How do you
I don't. I have hard drives. I use those small LC hard drives, back up cards on them, but it's like I have to clean out. I got a RAID 0 that's built into my Mac Pro still, and every time we go through that process of getting budgets done, and I come in with my cool idea of shared storage. What do you guys think? Oh, how much does that cost? They hate it every time, and it always gets killed.
So with at a broadcast outlet, they have the interplay system for the media management and asset management. Does Adobe, that was one of the reasons why I haven't so much invested in that, because there is no media management asset.
Well, okay, so for Adobe, well, first of all, the closest that Adobe has to sort of like an interplay would be their Adobe Anywhere, which would be a whole different conversation. But for media management, for keeping track of files, things like that, they don't really have a dedicated product for that. But they do have Prelude, which can do a lot of that work. I use Prelude all the time to find clips and to ingest them from my various collection of hard drives. It works pretty well. In fact, I promised Walter Biscardi and a couple other people that I would do a little tutorial about Prelude, because I get a lot of calls from people who have no idea what Prelude's all about, and so I said I'm going to show it how I use it in my workflow and show how powerful it really is, and you can use it for things like that.
So we got to wrap this thing up so that the other presentation can actually happen. But real quick, just for fun, last question. Something to do in Vegas during NAB that's not NAB related.
That doesn't involve strippers.
That doesn't involve strippers.
Or gambling.
Well, the lazy river at the Monte Carlo, it would have been my first pick, but I did that this year, and it was disgusting with all the beer cups and stuff in it, so I wouldn't recommend that. I don't know. There's the Kiss mini golf course is pretty cool.
You just stole mine.
I would really, to get onto something that is media related, or NAB related, that I would encourage any of you to go to would be the Media Motion Ball on Monday nights, the first night of NAB. It is a great time. It is $50, but it is well worth it. It is a dinner. The prizes are amazing that you can win in the raffle. But getting to network with a lot of people that are in the industry, all levels, different places in the industry, all from around the country. We've gone the last couple of years, I've gone the last 3 years, and it is a lot of fun, and you get to meet a lot of people. If you're normally kind of quiet and shy, break out of your shell, go to it, and meet some folks.
All right, Mr. Naso.
Well, this year I went to a show because this guy, he wanted to go have a steak dinner, and boy, did I get razzed for going to a Vegas show. Now, I think you got to do it.
Yeah, we basically told him to enjoy Thunder Down Under while we're having a steak.
Hey, those guys are pretty good looking. I don't know. They got nice bodies.
Don't ask, don't tell.
No, I just went to a show. I thought it was fun. One product I think is really cool, and it's not editing, but it's cool, and I found it at NAB, and I'm actually doing a review on it right now on my blog. It's made by Datacolor. You guys are familiar with spiders? Those things? Well, they make a new product called Spider HD, and this thing is badass. This is exactly what we need. You can calibrate your monitor, your production monitor, your television set. You can use the chip chart that you saw on that. That was a data color chip chart. It's got a gray scale on the back for shooting that to make sure you can just color pick it. You know, this thing is made for not just photography. They've made this thing for us in production, for video. It's a powerful tool. It's under $400, and it comes in a little kit, and it's got everything, the software and everything. You can, if your monitor has, your television, your HD television has certain criteria. It doesn't have to be a broadcast monitor. It just has certain criteria that you can control with your remote. You can get perfect calibration from that monitor. Isn't that exciting? Because I mean, that's what, who wants to spend, well, maybe Flanders Scientific would want us to spend that much money. Yeah. But I mean, their monitors, entry level is $5,000 to $6,000, $7,000 for a really good broadcast monitor. You know, so check it out. That's going to be. I think it's going to be a big product. It's unique.
Okay, and my thing to do, Eric Addison alluded to it, on the corner of Paradise and Harmon, no shit, Kiss Mini Golf. Neon, glow-in-the-dark Kiss Mini Golf. 18 toll, you gotta put it up Gene Simmons' tongue, Kiss Mini Golf. I was there with my son, we got hammered and had a great time at Kiss Mini Golf.
And we did that at Thunder Down Under.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, the two Erics, Eric Naso, Eric Addison, give them a hand. Thanks, guys. Mr. Brudemeyer, come on down.
Hi everybody, I'm back. The second half of the meeting is a overview of the workflow using the Blackmagic cinema camera. And our speakers are Peter Mickelson, who is a camera assistant, Bill Bork, cinematographer, and Mike Tao will be up here to answer questions. He was the editor on this particular project, and they're going to talk about this one project and how they used the Blackmagic cinema camera to get good results. Who's going first? Everybody together?
Yeah. So, who's heard of the 48-hour film project? Yeah? Okay. We've done this, me and Mike and Peter, and that Mike, Marianne, have done this several times with the amalgamated grommets, and I kind of go into it saying, you know, I'd like to try a different tool, try something else that I haven't tried before, something else that would that I can experiment with, use it as a showpiece for my reel and all that stuff. So we competed in Los Angeles last fall, and we won that whole competition, yeah, which is pretty cool, up against 130 other teams competing, making a movie in 2 days. So now we were using a raw workflow was our big challenge here, and using this that in Blackmagic cinema camera, if you haven't looked at it before, it's really just this. It's about the size of 3 slices of bread, and the novelty of it is that it's very, very simple. There's not much to it. Very, very few buttons. It's very easy to operate. Great to go into small places. When you buy this camera, if you're not familiar with it, it comes with DaVinci Resolve, which is a $1,000 piece of equipment or software, and the camera costs $2,000 with that. So basically the camera is $1,000. Now, as you see it here, there's lots of accessories on it, which is a big part of it. You want to talk about accessories?
So the camera by itself isn't much to shoot with. So you're going to need a rail system, and the rail system I have on here is the View Factor. It's a rail system on the bottom and a cage with a cheese plate on the top and the sides to put all your goodies on. And you'll need an external monitor because on the built-in monitor there's no wave levels for sound. So it's a little oversight with them, but it's a cheap camera, so that's what you get. And you also need a battery system, like with most cinema cameras, but there is a built-in battery. So if you do unplug it, you can hot swap batteries, which is convenient. And depending which lenses you use, there's EF and passive micro four thirds mount. So you need like follow focus and matte box, typical cinema stuff. And for inputs, there's a 1/4 inch audio. So you need an adapter if you want to go to XLR or whatnot.
And they're balanced.
Yeah.
So.
And there's one yeah. The video output is as SDI, and there's Thunderbolt output to go to a Mac or what have you. There's a headphone output. There's really not much besides what there is.
You have to look at it like a cinema camera. You know, just think of it that's what it's for. And one of the things that's kind of interesting to me is that when you look at what feature films are being shot on these days on digital cameras, you have the Epic and the Alexa. A lot now are the Sony F55 are the ones that you see a lot. The slang term for this camera is the little Alexa, and it's a $1,000 camera. So we very well might see feature films being done with this. So in the very near future. So be on the lookout for that sort of thing.
Well, if you do get this camera and you want to shoot outside, you're going to need infrared and ND filters, because you will get pollution if you go outside, so just a heads up with that. And there's no low pass filter on this camera, so technically it is sharper than like the Epic, which is 4K, but it has a strong low pass filter. So you have to watch out for tight patterns and all that typical stuff. But
That's in 2K, is it?
At
2.5K. One of the things that's interesting about this, another one of the interesting things about it, is it does have two different lens mounts. You have the EF, which is Canon, and the micro four thirds. It's a micro four thirds sensor. So you can, when you get the micro four thirds, they're not interchangeable. You can't swap them out. You have to one or the other, or both of them, if you wish. Is that with the micro four thirds, now you have a huge selection of lenses from a variety of different manufacturers. There's just a ton of different things that you can put on there. The Voigtlander, which is, you can get a 0.95, which is pretty special. And then everybody know about the Metabone Speed Booster? Everybody heard that? They make one special just for this, not this camera, but for the micro four thirds, that will make it so that it's comparable. You get the same image circle. That's not what I say. You get the same angle as you would on a Super 35 lens. So it opens up a lot of possibilities there, and also increase the sensitivity of the light transmitting through.
About to stop more.
About to stop more. So being that you don't have any ND, you have to consider that, and that's a really exciting part of the whole package to have that. So one of the things that, you have anything else to add on that? Lots of lens choices, which is really exciting. Right now we have a 35 millimeter Zeiss lens on here. This particular lens is a Nikon mount that has a Canon adapter on it. So the speed booster is, I believe, just a Nikon mount is what they have for that. So 35. But you have to remember that being without, this does not have a speed booster, so the equivalent is that it's 2 times, so it's approximately 65 millimeter in angle of view. Do you want to show some? You want to show some before and afters?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So one of the things that's exciting about this is that it you have 2 different flavors of 3 really of recording. You do ProRes and you can do RAW, and it's 12-bit, uncompressed, so lots of data. One of the things that Peter also didn't say while he's working on that is that you slide an SSD in the side here for recording. So convenient, but it's another couple of $100 that you have to have to invest in this to have multiple drives. So when you're done with one, you can pull it out, stick it in. There are some little quirks with this. So you can't reformat the drive in the camera. You can't delete a clip. Everything has to be done. So this is only just a recording device, and so you have to, when you load it into the computer, then you have to swap that out. So good to know.
What's the maximum frame rate on that?
It's
30. It's very, very simple camera, which is great because there's not a whole lot of, this is not an everyday, type of thing. It's a real specialized cinema style camera. So it doesn't do a lot of stuff. But what it does very, very nice. I really, really enjoyed the images that I got from that. So if you turn your head, move your chair or whatever.
Faint image on the wall. So this is a clip from a commercial Gromits worked on for the Doritos spot during the Super Bowl. So ungraded and great clips. It's not showing too well. Between raw and the raw graded. This is a clip from our coverage short. It's not a very good image.
It's supposed to be orange?
No, it's supposed to be green. Well, you could turn it the other way to my laptop and you could see it.
Gather on the laptop, fire.
Turn the projector off and turn it back on. Maybe
Why don't you guys cycle the projector? I'll talk a little bit about phones while you do that. Okay, so on the post side,
Well, I just have a question, what the cost of this build out is on the camera, do you have any idea?
Bill? Yes. Well, Peter probably has a better clue on that. Peter,
Just the camera by itself, or
all the accessories. You can do one by one, and people can add.
The camera is 2. The lens is
2,000.
2,000. The lens is 3,500. Battery system's probably 600. The monitor is maybe 2,000 and more. No, 1,500.
Matte box
is probably
is about $1,000.
Yeah.
And the
should I be adding up?
yes, I think I added it up just recently, and I think that I was looking at a couple of $1,000 more to build a package, and that's with a lens set. Not, I mean, this is a very, very exciting lens set. They're have been modified by a place in Burbank called Duclos, and they take the Zeiss still lenses, and then they They modified and put gears on them and declick the irises and make them into sitting lenses and match them so they're all the same color. It's a very exciting package, and I think you can buy a set of 5 of them for $9,000. I think is what it is. They have several different sets that you can get. And they're beautiful. They are the same glass as in what's in the CP2 kit.
It's a ZF2.
ZF2.
It's a
ZF2.
ZF2.
Those are ZF2s.
The CP2s are the same, just larger housings.
Right, right.
So on the post side, what did I love about this camera? It was a 48-hour film festival, which means I get about half of that to edit. The thing I loved the most was it was ProRes. It came into my edit bay as ProRes. I didn't have to transcode a damn thing.
It was converted on site, on set. The senior Mickelson, I think you'll love that, took the mags, the SSDs, and then converted them with a very, very simple LUT lookup table, and he said that it was very comparable to what's on the Alexa. So, and that's what went to Mr. Kyle.
That's what came to me. Additionally, I've heard a lot of people say that you can't use the onboard audio from this camera. In that situation, with a short amount of time to edit, we did. We used the onboard audio. I mean, I had second system audio as well, but because we had such a short time frame, I didn't spend any time syncing anything up, and the audio off of it was fine.
No preamps or anything? No preamp or anything?
It was going through, I mean, there was a sound guy, it was going through a mixer, it was all being mixed and then sent to the camera. So, and it was a damn good mixer. I don't know if you guys know Frank Forth, but Frank's a great audio guy in town. So we had that advantage as well. I was able to, because we were running out of time, I was able to color grade and send it off to the festival, but we still had the option afterwards of taking my edit out of Final Cut 10, sending it to Steve Mickelson, who did a color correct in Resolve afterwards. That didn't make it to the festival, but we still had the ability to do it. He could link back to the original raw files and do a color correction there, send that back to me. We did have some issues in the round trip and things weren't linking up, and we still, to be honest, haven't figured out what that issue is. I think Resolve and Final Cut 10 work really well if they're all in the same system, but when you have two different systems, it's having some issues linking files.
For this
back
movie,
up.
we did a lot of things that would normally cause problems. They did cause us some, but we were still able to get a movie done in less than 48 hours. We shot one setup, one scene with XD-Cam, a 2-camera thing, and that was edited in Premiere. I believe it was in Premiere, and then took that footage along with the ProRes and to compile the completed movie. So there's 3 cameras involved. None of them are actually the same, but they're and 2 different, totally different formats. So it was a huge undertaking to try and do all these things and literally untested and come up with an award-winning movie. I might also add that the next place should be able to see this out, since that doesn't look like we're going to be able to show it here. If any of you happen to be in the south of France next month, it'll be showed at the Cannes Film Festival. So we're very honored. This will be the second time that an Amalgamated Grommets movie will screen at the Cannes Film Festival. So I hope to see all you there. Any questions?
Hey guys, so any questions on this? Any questions
young
on
man in the last row?
How do you like that speed booster? I mean, do you find that extra piece of glass deteriorates even if you
Well, it doesn't work on this, it will not work on this camera because this is a Canon mount, EF mount. It has to have the micro four thirds. I haven't tried it yet. I'm anxious to do it. Everything that I've read, all the white papers, I've used it on an FS 700, and it's great. It's wonderful. It gives us an extra stop of light. It gives us a little wider field of view, and there's really no downside. What the white paper says is that it increases contrast and is sharper. So I mean, there's just lots of plus, plus, plus. I don't see, and it's $400. Another thing that's kind of interesting, or that I've used a couple of times, is that using the speed booster on the Sony FS700 is that if I'm working on something and I need a little bit longer lens, it's not quite the right focal length. Take the speed booster off, remount the lens. I now have a lens that's as far as on the FS700, it's 1.5 times more focal length. So it essentially gives me another set of optics.
How bad is the fall-off in quality though?
Beg pardon?
The fall-off in quality by adding that, is it a considerable fall-off?
There is none. None that I've noticed. The white paper said there's an increase. Because you're this originally designed by a guy that worked at Panavision. So they're pretty sticklers on quality. So because you're in this situation using just the very center of the lens. This lens is designed for a full frame 35 image, and we're using a micro four thirds size on it. So just the very center. So now you open that up, and now you're using the whole piece of glass. It gives you a lot of pluses. So, the downside, I guess, if you want to look at it real hard, it's $400.
File sizes for RAW, how often were you swapping out mags?
The current mag, the common mag is 240 gig or 256, depending which one you buy. But in RAW, they last about 27 minutes of recording, and in ProRes, it's about 4 hours of footage. So RAW is significantly more data, but the SSDs aren't that expensive compared to like RED SSDs or CFast cards. They're like 300 for the 240, and which is reasonable. There's lots of suitable brands and types of SSDs.
They're not that finicky.
Yeah.
We haven't seen it be that finicky, no dropouts, no failures. It's just been, pretty, a real pleasant tool to work with, I thought.
Did you shoot RAW or PNG, or did you do the ProRes?
For the projects that I've worked on with this camera, I've only shot RAW. And that's, even for our weekend movie, which was kind of a crazy thing to do. Look, there's a picture.
How did you feel about editing that, the RAW versus?
Well, he didn't. It was already converted for him.
It was already converted for me, so I got the ProRes. I basically got ProRes files to cut on, and the RAW files went to the results. We went to the colorist, right? So then we could link back to them, or he could link back to them in Resolve. I wouldn't want to edit on RAW for a 48-hour film. That would be insane.
And the ProRes recording does film mode or video mode, and film mode is flat log footage, and video mode puts a cheap LUT on it. I wouldn't suggest using the video mode because it's really orange and gross. So there is.
Kind of like our image that we showed before.
But we do have a new image. So
We have a new image that's actually not.
So we actually can watch examples there. Okay.
Next stage. Yeah, for the projector.
Okay, so black. Graded.
Honestly, it's not the jeans.
But wait, there's more. But wait, there's more. But wait, there's more. Pretty dramatic difference. Now, those who were asking before about, you know, the problem with lack of depth of field, or because of the 4/3 sensor, just look at the quality of the image off this thing. I mean, there's no special tricks, there's no post, other than the color grading, there was no filters dropped in there that to change the focus. And I think it falls off really nicely. I like the texture that it has.
Looks like drywall texture.
Dead Jim.
This specific clip, there's a lot of nodes put on in DaVinci Resolve. It's hard to tell on the drywall screen, but between the ungraded and graded, you got the highlights in the eyes, the high points there are taken away. The blood on the carpet is brought up and more prominent, and there's a vignette brought around too. So just to make her look more dead. So that's all done in Resolve. And
Who's the timekeeper? Do we have time to show the finished? Do we want to do that, or?
8:46.
Do we have more questions? Or
5 minutes. All right, that's fine.
okay.
Now, we are doing DVI, no, I'm sorry, we're not. We call it VGA from this, so it's not the greatest screen. Do you have sound?
I do have some.
It's not the greatest screen, it's not the greatest image, but
Yeah.
it's a damn good edit.
But there was some problem with the dialogue for some reason. I don't know if it's still.
Right. Hey Peter.
Yeah.
Unplug the external audio. Play it from the laptop speaker.
Be quiet.
Which hold your microphone up to the
This is my suicide note. I've made business decisions that are unethical, immoral, illegal, all to make more profit from less healthcare. We've methodically changed our business practices to deny expensive coverage to patients that were entitled to it and paid for it.
Shaving Lorian's head. No, that was actually very easy. Lorian Hill-Purcell, what a trooper, what a give everything to the project actress she is. Just to be, there was no second thought. You want to shave my head? Okay, sure, that'd be great. That'd make a great story. So.
Using the black magic camera.
Oh, the black magic. There was the hardest thing I think was in the post aspect of it is, I so much wanted to do a great color grade on this to turn in. Being that it was an LA competition, we had our 48 hours was now cut by a couple hours. So we had to, turn around and get that movie up to LA. We were one of the first to turn it in because we had so much extra time. We just did a very, very basic grade on it and just something for Mike to work with, so it wasn't looking like ugly stuff. And yet it looked so much better than practically anything else that was entered.
The old adage that a film isn't finished, it's just abandoned, is so much more true at a 48-hour film festival. Because you just have to get to a point where you go, it's good enough, and go. And again, we lost even a couple more hours because we had to get somebody to drive it up to LA. So yeah, every one of these 48-hour projects I do, there's always a million other things I would do, but that's the challenge of it, right? You've got to really decide what those things are that you're going to do and what you're going to let go.
How long did you have the camera before you shot this project for
The 9 o'clock in the morning when it rolled in. No. Well, he.
Like 6 months, I think it was. Not that often. It was still pretty new. It was one of the first real productions it was on. So.
It was tested.
Yeah, it was tested.
And the workflow had been gone over, not with all the complications that we threw at it, but we pretty much knew how to deal with stuff. We knew that what we had done is out of the HDMI. We went into a LUT box that threw a kind of a color grade on it so that we could look at it on the monitor and say, okay, this looks, we can work with this. It's something we can look at and get inspired by the image, not something flat and gray and ugly looking. So, but from an operator's point of view, I had never touched it before. I touched it, I think, but I never rolled any footage off of it on it. So it was going in real cold. But I found it very, very pleasant, easy to work with. There's really no adjustments to be made. I mean, every time we put in a different SSD, we would change the label on that internally. But just so that every mag had its own set of clips, but past that, there's really nothing to do. Basic.
Question for maybe Peter. Can you add metadata with an external, like an iPad or something? Would you have to go through that panel on the back if you want to like log? If you want to add metadata to the files.
You would have to go through
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's just pretty simple and self-explanatory.
Right. Yeah. I don't think Bill is going to be happy when he's looking at his shot and I'm coming in touch.
But
it's not that practical.
There are very minimal times that you want to do anything like that.
No, but for documentary stuff, it's sometimes worthwhile to have so we know what people are saying, and then when we can find stuff to add metadata, I'm finding it more and more. Just when I've fiddled with it, it's really useful. I can see it as a really useful tool going forward. So it's something I consider when I'm going forward and stuff I want to shoot as I go forward, bigger production.
Right. Anything else?
How does
leave home without one. No, not really. It's so basic. I wouldn't say that it does, but you know, when we're doing with under the gun, it sure is nice to have somebody that's thinking ahead and that's doing part of the work. Peter and I have done 3 or 4. We've done several movies together, and boy, I sure like working with this guy. No, I think we do well together, and you know, it's nice. It's nice. But yeah, I don't know that you necessarily. Peter's probably shot a couple of things by himself before, so. Yes, sir.
I don't have a specific question on the camera, but the question that I have is music. I'm sure this was like a score that was composed, but for us who we don't have composers, like me, I'm a college student, I can't afford a composer. Do you guys have any sites or anything that I may have not?
You know, for a lot of the like corporate stuff I do, I wind up using like Smart Sound and their library. Sometimes I'll go over to Audio Jungle and see if I can find stuff there. I talked to, this is going back to the first half of the meeting, talked to a couple of different audio houses or music houses at NAB this year, and they talked about having some per, like needle drop, per download stuff. Killer Tracks was one of them. Who else? I can't remember off the top of my head.
The Wolf still has that.
Incompetech? Never heard of them.
It's Kevin. Incompetech. It's royalty-free music done by Kevin MacLeod. He's pretty amazing. It's free for students. Just put credits at the end to Kevin MacLeod, and that's it. So.
And it's incompetech.com.
Yes.
He's just a guy who makes music. If you want it for commercials, he has rates on his website, and the rates are all low.
Very reasonable. Yeah.
I did download some clips or some finished movies from Vimeo. That it looks pretty poor on this projection, but I'd say, you know, go to Vimeo and look at some of the stuff that's shot with this camera. It's amazing. The Big Sur stuff, it blows me away. The difference between the shadows and the highlights and how the detail is in both, and the color, it's beautiful. It's hard to find something that's comparable, and especially when dealing with a $1,000 camera. That blows me away. Glass is very, very important. Get good glass, as always.
Nothing like a nice piece of glass. Any last questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, when you're importing it from your API, is that the product?
The camera puts out ProRes or RAW. So if you want to import it into Premiere, you can use the ProRes, correct, Eric?
Yes.
You can use the ProRes in Premiere, so you don't have to, or you can convert it to AVI or any other format, but DNX HD.
DNX HD as well.
Oh, it can also record in DNX HD, which is much more compatible with.
You can use the RAW too.
No, 2.5K.
You can use the RAW natively in Premiere. Cinema DNG.
Yeah.
So there you go. You can use it RAW in Premiere.
And where does she go after she takes her jet?
Milwaukee. Because nobody ever books in Milwaukee. All right, thank you all. Thank you, Eric Addison and Eric Naso and Bill Forrest. And Peter Nicholson and Mark Powell. Thank you very much. And thank you all for coming, and please come to next meeting with Walter Biscardi. I guarantee you it will be a great meeting because he's full of information and we can't wait to see it. Cool. Thank you all for coming out.
And thank you for coming once again. If you guys would like to see Next Door, which we're looking to expand our movie making studio capabilities, the tour will begin in the front lobby. Okay.